Greetings, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Pammy Out Loud. I'm your host, Pamela Walsh, and this is a podcast about making connections and building community in all sorts of ways of life. Particularly, as I like to say, for me, at my third period of the hockey game of life, here I am. And one of the most important communities to me has been a relatively new one in my life, and that is the Mahjong community. And it has been such a great source of friendship, inspiration, connection, all sorts of wonderful things for me. And one of the connections that I have made is with my dear friend, Jan Egri, and she will be joining us today. Jan is a longtime Mahjong player, one of the administrators of the largest Facebook Mahjong group. Mahjong That's It is the name of the group, which has over 141,000 people currently and growing by leaps and bounds every day. So I'm pleased to be joined by Jan Egri. She's also I think of her as my rules expert. Whenever I have a rules question, I go to her and she clarifies things for me in a way like no one else can. So thank you, Jan, for joining us, and greetings. Good morning.
Good morning, Pammy. How are you?
I'm doing well. And if you could see us, which you will on some of our promo clips, Jan and I are in our matching Mahjong shirts. We're feeling kind of feisty this morning and pretty in pink. So Jan, let's start. I'm going to just start off. When did you come to Mahjong? How long have you been playing Mahjong? Let's hear some of your history with the game.
Okay. I started off, believe it or not, in 1956.
You weren't even born then.
Oh, God, yes, I was. But thank you. My mom started playing. My dad had passed away, and her friends got her into the game. So I was allowed to sit while they were playing. I could watch. I couldn't talk. I couldn't ask questions. But it gave me the sense of the friendships that Mahjong brought together. So now we're going to fast forward many, many years. First of all, my mom would not teach me how to play. She insisted it was a game for adults. So nowadays, when I see the people teaching their children and their grandchildren how to play, it's a warm feeling because they're going to have a community unlike any other friendships. So that's how I started. And later on, one of my son's teachers was doing a continuing ed program at his high school, and it was to learn how to play Mahjong.
Oh, you're kidding.
Now, it was out of the blue, and I knew the names of all the tiles. I knew how to build the walls. I didn't know how to read the card. So I went to the class, and the rest is history. I made a lot of friends. The teacher was the first person I sold a Mahjong set to.
Oh, wow. You're kidding. That's awesome.
And that's how I really got into it. So I've been playing for about 25 years now.
When did you and it's Johnny Levine, correct?
Yes, it is.
Yes. Johnny and Jan started the Mahjong That's It Facebook group. When did y'all start that?
Well, Johnny actually started it's going on almost 11 years. We were both in another group on Facebook, and neither one of us felt like it was a place where people could go and get correct answers and feel at home. Mm-hmm. So Johnny started it, asked me if I would come along with her, and of course I said yes. So it's been almost 11 years now. We have a fantastic relationship, and we couldn't ask for better group members. They're from all over the world, so we get a lot of interesting questions, and the group brings people together.
Yep. Yeah. So, so what would you, first of all, also I wanted to ask you, where are you currently living? Where do you live?
I'm in Florida.
You're in Florida. Okay. And then and I want you to get back for our listeners that aren't Mahjong players. Can you give us just a little short history of Mahjong? Where did it come from, and how did it grow in the U.S.? And what is the connection? A lot of people always ask, what's the Jewish connection to Mahjong? That's something people are intrigued by. So can you give us a little primer on Mahjong history?
Sure. There was a gentleman whose last name was Babcock, and he was in China on business when he came across the game. and he brought it back to the States for his wife. And she started playing with her friends. And
this was in
oh gosh, the 1920s,
20s. Okay.
It was, right.
Okay.
So that's how it started. And of course, the rules were not anything like the rules that we play with nowadays. At some point, a league formed in order to make everybody concise on how you play the game. And obviously, the rules, as we know today, are very, they're down there and people need to play by them. So put everybody on an even keel when they were playing. So then the league started in New York. And of course, most people know Ruth Unger was the president of the league for like 50 years.
Okay.
She brought the game really into the world. And yes, mostly it was Jewish women that played the game. I don't know why. It just happened, whether it was Mrs. Babcock's friends that were all Jewish or how it actually evolved. But the league was Jewish women, and they started it and put the rules out so that everybody could play the game together.
So are you Jewish?
I am.
You are Jewish. Okay. And in fact, I know that your email address is related, and I've never heard of a Jewish nun. Was that a little play on words for you, or what is the background to where your email address comes from?
Okay. About 35 years ago or so, I was like an administrator in a 40s plus group on the Undernet.
The Undernet.
The Undernet. So you really have to be old enough to know that the Undernet was like AOL, where there was thousands and thousands of chat rooms.
Yes, bulletin boards and message boards.
Absolutely,
yes.
Absolutely.
I was on CompuServe. I don't know if you remember CompuServe.
I do remember CompuServe.
My first email address was something like 1073621.4211 at CompuServe.com. I mean, it was this long number.
Oh, well, I was not Jewish nun back then. I was a totally different person. And in the group, because I didn't want anybody to know if I was a male or a female, because I didn't want any arguments from people. So the handle that I used was over the 6, you have like an ampersand.
Okay.
I just said that wrong.
Yeah.
And so I used that, then an upside down question mark for my nose, and then another one on the side, so it looked like a face.
Oh.
And I was called Face. Everybody.
You were very, very cryptic back in the day.
I was, not anymore. But then came Christmas, and everybody was saying what they got for Christmas. And they said, so Face, what did you get for Christmas? So I thought, well, I'll change my nickname. And I was going to do Jewish Nun to signify that I don't get anything because I'm Jewish. But it was one letter too long. So I thought, okay, so I'll do NUN.
Oh, isn't that awesome?
And that's how Jewish Nun came about. I know it's an oxymoron.
Well, I bet what's interesting about it is, I bet you never run across it. You know how many usernames you come that are like frequently repeated. I bet that's one you just don't see. I mean, if it's Jewish, somebody named Jewish Nun, it's you, right?
Well, there was one person on AOL that took it also.
Oh.
Which is fine, and I don't have a problem with that. But that nobody would let me change it back to Face. So
I love it.
Jewish Nun, and I changed my email address. And here I am 35 years later. I'm still the Jewish Nun.
I love it. I love it. I love it.
Thank you.
Okay, so for me, I came to Mahjong only a couple of years ago, and I heard of it. I had a few friends that played, and they would say things like, "Well, it's really good for your brain, but it's a hard game to learn." A lot of people would say that to me, almost to the point that I started kind of developing a complex. Like, did they not think I was capable of learning how to do this? And so I decided it was going to be my mission in 2024. That it was my New Year's resolution. I wanted to learn how to play Mahjong and figure it out. Little did I know that I was jumping on the wave, that it's just been this onslaught of people who have jumped on board. is it just me, or do you feel like Mahjong has experienced I don't know if it's a resurgence or a huge onboarding of so many new players?
There has been an incredible growth with Mahjong. It's not only just the young kids that are being taught by their mothers and grandmothers, but college students are doing it as well. Some people have changed the rules a little bit to make it a little more exciting for the students because they're younger age. I don't necessarily agree with it, but if it's going to bring them into the game, by all means, do it. But yes, you are seeing so many people coming into our game now, whether it's American or Chinese or Japanese. There's so many different variations of the game.
Right. I think I read something, there's like 142 variations of Mahjong.
I wouldn't doubt that. I think like every country seems to have their version. And then you have Wright Patterson, which is what people in this service would play on their bases. So yes, there's all sorts of different variations of the game, and people are gravitating toward it. They're finding it's a social thing for them.
Right. So when I learned, I invited two of my friends who are Mahjong players. I said, I really want to learn this. And they're like, okay, we'll come over and teach you. And I said to my sister, who's just retired, I said, hey, I'm doing this. And she's a game player. She goes, okay, I want to come over. I want to learn. And she and I learned the day before my birthday in February in 2024. And that afternoon, we were both like, okay, we're all in. And she ordered me my first tiles that day, that very day, off of Amazon, just a plain white set, perfect to the beginning, go and off. We both embraced it fully. She immediately started playing tournaments. That girl doesn't know better, but actually she's like, why not, and little mini tournaments. And then we both have it has become a sister bond for us. We go on trips together, and which is actually how I met you. If you remember, Sandra and I celebrating our 1-year anniversary of Mahjong together, went on a Galentine's Day Mahjong retreat out in a place just outside of Atlanta. And that is where I first met Jan and just fell in love with her. She's the cutest little thing you've ever seen. And I call myself I'm newbie to it, but I consider myself a rule geek. And what I mean by that is I want to know all the rules. I always tell people I'll play by whatever table rules you want, but I want to know. I mean, I'd prefer to always play by the officially sanctioned National Mahjong League rules. But for me, it's like, I think that's one of the most intriguing parts of the game. There's so many little nuances and subtleties, and understanding the rules and why it's that way, I think is just, I don't know. I geek out over it. And that's one of the things I love so much about the Mahjong That's It Facebook group is I love to read the situation that somebody will propose. And then I try to guess the answer and see, okay, what would I say? What do I think the answer is? And then seeing how close or far away I come to it,
The rules of the game is what makes the game fair for everybody. I agree with you. The rules give it a different dimension than any other type of a game, because you can do house rules, table rules. You can play the way you want to, as long as everybody agrees about it. But I'm like you. I'm a rules person. I like to stick to the rules.
And if you stick to the rules, it is fair, right? I mean, we'll get into this whole debate that's on the board all the time, as people will say, well, I play a friendly game, right? And that just sets everybody off. But what I always say is it is friendly if you all play by the same rules, if you call the same calls, if you and it might be you have table rules, but you have to equally apply whatever rules you're going by. You don't just go, oh, well, we're a friendly group, so we don't send people to jail when they play Monopoly, right? I mean, people don't do that with other games, right?
That's right. And that's why there's rules. And I agree with you. When somebody says friendly, I say friendly means everybody plays by the same rules. So when you let one person go, you have to let the other go. Otherwise, it becomes a very unfriendly game.
Yes. I completely agree. And I think there's, when as a teacher, when you teach people, there's a time period where you may go, okay, you give them a little grace. Look at the first few times. Okay, you picked from, whether it's picking from the wrong end of the wall or some of the other rules, but okay, we're gonna let that go right now for this time. But then you have to, like you said, you have to equally apply it to everybody. So let's talk. So for the purposes of, like you said, those that are listening to us now, Jan and I are specifically referring to the National Mahjong, the rules as specified by the National Mahjong League. And it's the American version of playing Mahjong. And one of the things that I'd like to also to talk about is, what do you, as we see a lot of things come up on the message board. What would you say is the most misunderstood rule that may be out there right now, I'm not going to say the most frequently asked rule, but the one that causes people the most, that you see causing the most questions, angst, conflicts? What do you see that one?
Well, that's pretty easy. And I only know this because I've actually gone to the league and spoke to Larry Unger about this rule back in 2019. This is what people are calling now the slamming rule. Ruth Unger put this in effect before she passed away, which I believe is about 7 or 8 years ago. And when it was put into effect, there were so many gray areas about it. And that's the rule where if a person calls for a tile and they're not next in line, and they begin to expose their tiles onto their rack, or they picked up the tile and put it on their rack, then it is too late for next in line to call for the tile. So what that did was it gave a green light, shall we say, to the aggressive players, where they started slamming up tiles to circumvent next in line from getting a tile. It's rude, it's unsportsmanship.
And it wasn't the intent.
No, it wasn't. It was if it's done in a timely manner, not slamming up tiles.
So the idea behind it really is, for, like I said, those that are listening and not completely familiar with what we're talking about, is when the next person in line has the right to call the tile before anyone else, unless it's for Mahjong, and then the Mahjong would trump that, of course. Right. But what happens is, so the intent behind it is, say the person to my left would be, and then it would be my turn, right? And so the person to my left discards, and I'm not paying attention to it, and you call it. You're sitting next to me, and you call it, and then I go, wait a second, I need that tile, and so it's to prevent me kind of the snooze you lose factor. That's what it's really about.
Right. And if you're next in line and you say that, and the person hasn't picked up the tile and put it on their rack or exposed tiles, then you can get the tile. But if they already have, then their hand is in jeopardy, because now everybody knows what they need. So that's why the rule was put into place.
Oh, yeah, that makes sense. I never thought about that.
Yep.
So I tell people, I have a golfer husband. My husband's a golf people. And a lot of people that say, well, Mahjong has too many rules, or I don't understand the rules. I say, it's kind of like, I use the example of golf. Most people, whether you play golf or not, know what the goal of golf is. This is what we're doing. We're trying to get the ball in the hole in as few strokes possible. If you go to look, there is actually a very thick rule book for the rules of golf. I've watched my husband lay in bed and read that thing like it's the Bible, because it is the Bible of golf, for him. And, rule 3.2.1, the ball, if the ball lands on a cart path and bounces and hits a bird, and somebody is wearing a a hat that has, is yellow, then you have to put, okay, I'm exaggerating, but it sometimes it feels like that. A lot of the rules that are in that book are really kind of unusual exceptions to normal play. I think that's somewhat true for the rules in the Mahjong book. Like there's some good the procedures are there, but a lot of them are, if you declare the Mahjong in error, if some of the things that don't happen every game, but you need to know what they are.
That's correct. If you don't have something in writing to refer to, then you don't have an answer to how you play the game.
Okay, so say more about that, because there is something in writing you can refer to that so many players don't have. Tell me about it.
It is called Mahjong Made Easy.
Mm-hmm.
It is a book that the league puts out. The newest revision was last year. And it gives you step by step from the very beginning of the play, the Charleston, the passing, what happens if this happens. So they're pretty much clear on mostly everything. It's a book that I suggest everybody buys. It used to be $10. I think it might have gone up to $15 now.
Yep.
But I believe they're going to be doing a new revision because there were some things in there that aren't clear cut. They're in a gray area, and you can read it either way. They also have to take and clarify some of the rules that they have that don't have consequences when they break them.
Yes. So give me an example of that.
Okay. So as most of us tournament players know, when you call a tile, you put it on top of your rack. You never put it in your rack. And it's a line of sight. You want to make sure the person has picked up the right tile. They have it in their hand. They put it on their rack so you know they've got the right tile. National Mahjong League for a long time never said anything about that. And then I spoke to David Unger and I said, you really need to do this because people could be picking up a tile they need for a pair if they're very quick, not the tile that was necessarily thrown. So for instance, if you're playing 1 through 5 cracks and you need a pair of 1 cracks. Now you've got your 3s. Okay, somebody throws out a 3 crack and you call it and you see that there's 3 1 cracks out. So you know your hand is dead. A fast player will pick up the 1 crack, put it into their rack and expose their 3 cracks, which they already had. It's called cheating. People do cheat in this game.
Yeah.
So with the line of sight, that can't happen.
That makes sense. But the problem is so that is listed as a rule that you're supposed to put it out onto when you call for a discard, you're supposed to put it on your flat part of your rack, not in your rack, right?
Right. That's what.
But there's no penalty unless you're in a tournament. Most tournaments specify that. It's on every tournament match. Yeah.
So they put it out in the bulletin and right away I called David. I said, David, what's the penalty for doing it? In a tournament, your hand is dead. And he said, let me check with this team. And he didn't call me back, but he emailed me back and said that they didn't feel that all rules need to have a penalty.
I
said, it's not a rule. It's not a rule.
It's kind of like a blind pass. I guess that's another good example of peeking at when we do a blind pass during the Charleston, right? And some people look at that. That's breaking the rule, but there's no penalty for it.
There's no penalty
in regular play.
Right. In a tournament, you get minus 10 points.
Yes.
Regular play, no, there isn't. What we do is when somebody does that, which doesn't happen often with my groups, we make them not take the blind pass. The tile goes back to the other pass and they have to take a tile out of their hand.
Oh.
So that keeps you from looking at a blind pass.
That's a good, I like that rule. That's a good, good modification. Yeah.
It's a good one only because you're going to remember not to do it. You get called out on breaking a rule, you're going to remember the next time.
Right. So which leads me to my next topic. People get so upset over their hands, and I don't want to say them being called dead, because people often say they were called dead, if your hand is called dead, and there is so much emotion around being called, your hand being called dead, which I find fascinating and puzzling. People are like, oh, that's rude to call a hand dead. Oh, that's not friendly. There's that dreaded friendly word again, right? So let's talk some about that.
Okay, first of all, it's a rule that you may call a hand dead when you know for a fact that it is dead. You can do the death challenge, it's what I call it. Now, nobody should be upset about that because you're going to know that your hand is dead also.
Right.
At least you should. And you're going to be the first one to call another person's hand dead if the opportunity arises. Nobody should take it personally.
And what's like I always say to people, okay, so your hand gets called dead. You're out, you're not playing for what, 10 minutes? I mean, unless you're playing with a super slow group, right? And if you're playing with super slow group, they're probably not calling each other dead, I'm going to guess. That's going to be right. But generally, I mean, when I've been called dead, it's a time for me to run to the bathroom really quick, check my phone, grab a drink of water. I'm like, yay.
Absolutely. It gives you a break from the table. Get up. You can do that unless you still have your wall in front of you. Then you stay there so you can push it out. But yeah, so take a break, chill out. It's no big deal.
Take it like it's a personal insult, like I'm hurting their, and I mean, I've seen it in tournaments. People go, I'm sorry that I'm going to call you dead. I'm sorry, but I've called one person dead in a tournament, and it was related to this year's card and the hand, the even and odds hand, the north, in the Winds and Dragons hand, not even yes. But the Winds and the Dragons. Mm-hmm. And they'd done the north-south exposure, and then they had put up an even number. So I knew they were dead. I knew, and I looked at it and I said, I think you're dead. And her hand is dead. I'm not supposed to say she is dead. And she's like, no, I'm not. And then the other player at the table go, yeah, you are. And then you could see the light bulbs go on people's head. But it's not. But there's always all these apologies. I'm sorry. But I think it's also what is because this comes up a lot on the message board too. What is the strategy? Sometimes you don't want to call people dead. Why would you and why wouldn't you call people dead? What's the advantage and the disadvantages of doing that?
Okay, first of all, if I realize from the exposures that a player is playing a concealed hand and they have jokers up, and so they've just put up their second exposure, which tells me it is a concealed hand, and I can take their jokers because I have the tiles. I'm going to keep my mouth closed until I exchange those jokers. Then I can say, oh, I think your hand is dead. That's a concealed hand, and you've exposed. So that's the benefit of not saying anything. Yeah. Some people feel, and I don't agree with this, that the person could be holding the tiles that you need, that they might discard.
Right, because let's back up for those that are new or kind of perplexed by what we're talking about. Once a hand is called dead, the tiles go back in the rack. Is that depending?
Not always. It depends on the hand. If it's a concealed hand, everything goes back into your rack. This is one that I had trouble with that I just learned, which is even if the previous exposure, not the one that showed it to be a concealed, but let's say I did one exposure, it could have been an open hand or a non-concealed hand, right? And so, because I've seen this, and let's say that had jokers in it. Okay, let's say I put up something and it was a legit exposure and it had some jokers in it. But then I do something that shows, oh, I'm playing a concealed hand, and my hand is called dead. Right? I just learned that you have to put all the tiles back in your rack. But I've had people argue, no, that previous exposure, it could have been a non-concealed hand, so that one should still be left out.
And that's not correct.
It is not correct. Once it's determined a concealed hand, all exposures that have been put up are illegal exposures because they cannot expose until they have Mahjong. So nothing stays up once it's been declared dead.
And I've seen that one confuse more than a couple of people on that one. So
I see questions in the group on that also.
Right.
So that's one reason why you might not call a hand dead, so that you can grab the jokers when you know they're going to have to go back into the rack. Now,
if you call people dead, because some people say, well, then I don't know what they have. That was going to be our next. You're gonna say, so maybe they have the tiles that I need in their hand, and if I call their hand dead, then I'm never going to get the tile I need. What's your thoughts on that?
My thoughts on that are, when you call that person's hand dead, you're now going to get extra picks. There's only 3 of you pulling tiles, not 4. So you could easily pull your own tile, and you don't necessarily know what they have in their hand. All you know is what they've put out. So you shouldn't even assume anything. You should just know that, okay, instead of splitting these tiles 4 ways, we're splitting them 3 ways. So I'm going to get more tiles to pick.
And plus, if they are aware that they're dead, right, and you haven't called them dead, then they're going to try to drive it to a wall game. I mean, that should be that, or at least that should be their strategy, right? I'm going to play defensively and I'm going to force a wall game as opposed. And so they may go over there and go, well, I can tell that Jan needs, these dragons that I have, and I'm going to not give them to her. So you want to get them out of the game so that you have a chance of mahjong yourself and not having a wall game.
Absolutely. And if you know your hand is dead, you never call your own hand dead. Number 1, it has to be done by another player. Number 2, if you don't call your hand dead, then you can play, as you said, defensively, hoping for a wall game, and not allowing the other players to get more tiles. So never call your hand dead. You know it. Play defensively.
I had a situation come up, and I think I actually called you on it because I was unsure what to do. I was playing, and it wasn't tournament, but I was playing, and I called Mahjong. I called Mahjong, and I started to lay it out, and I got, I don't know, half of it laid out, and then I realized, oh shit! Excuse my language. I still have a tile that made it. It was not a mahjong. Let's just say that. And I said, and at that point, I said, oh my gosh, I'm dead. But I've learned since, one, I really wasn't, because I hadn't laid out. So even though, let's say here's an example. I called this, say, 3-bam, and 3-bam through, and I said mahjong, right? And I lay out the 3-bam exposure. I lay out another legit exposure. But then all of a sudden I realized I got extra tiles in my hand. Now, can I say, never mind, it wasn't mahjong? I haven't put anything out that's not legal, but maybe I've now exposed more than I would have exposed if I had just exposed the 3-bams. Does that make sense?
It makes perfectly good sense. So when you call for mahjong, in this case, it was a 3-bam, and you've only put up the exposure for the 3-bam, and then you realize you don't have mahjong, you can say, oops, it's not mahjong. I'm just calling for an exposure.
Okay.
But if you put out additional tiles,
which you did,
you have mahjong in error.
Even though I haven't completely laid the whole thing out.
Right.
Okay, that's good to know.
That extra exposure.
Okay. Okay. Because I wasn't clear on that. I thought, okay, if I'd just done the 3-bams, I could have said, oh, never mind. I'm just calling for this particular trial, did my discard, and now it's the next person's turn. Right. In my case, I did let's say the 3-bams, and then I did the 5-bams, and then I go, oh my gosh, there's going to be an extra tile when I'm all done. I couldn't have just said, let's keep on going. Now now I have 2 exposures instead of 1.
No, I'm sorry.
Hey, no. Well, see,
if you're in a friendly game.
If you're in a friendly game, they'd let me do it.
Yes, I know.
But so let's say I do, okay, in that case, I realize immediately I'm going to have Mahjong on air. I just have to go ahead and put it up and have the other people go, that's not a Mahjong, right? I don't say, they'll obviously call it, right?
Right. When you said Mahjong, everybody's going to look at what you're doing, period. And if you put up more than one exposure and you say, oh, I really don't have Mahjong, it's just for an exposure, they're going to say, but you put up more tiles.
Yeah.
And they're going to call your hand done.
Interesting. Okay.
If
all right.
they're smart.
If they're smart. Okay. I want to talk a little bit about people that say about playing for money or points, or we just play to see who wins. Do you have an opinion about that? I do. So.
Absolutely. When you're first learning, by all means, just play. Don't let money be in the back of your mind. But once you're playing, you will find that when you start playing for money, you change the way you play for the better. You're more defensive in your playing. You're not playing for money, so I'll take a chance maybe and throw this tile even though there's 3 exposures up. When you're playing for money, you're going to break up your hand because you're not going to want to pay 50 cents.
I know. And it's so funny. I 100% agree with that, because I have people all the time that say, oh, I don't want to play for money. Or it changes how you play. And I agree with you. Yes, it does. Mm-hmm. It changes it for the better. It makes you a defensive player. If I'm not playing for money, I'm just going to go and hope that maybe I'll get the Mahjong. But if I don't, you'll get it. I'm going to throw this out. I think you're going to need a dragon, but maybe you don't. So I'm throwing the dragon and then you got it. And it's not a big deal. It's amazing how the payout on Mahjong is not that great, really, but it's funny. Like my husband all the time goes, I cannot believe they all play for quarters, like he's just, they just can't fathom that. And I said, it's amazing how it ups your awareness of what's going on.
It does. And I'm going to give a suggestion to those groups out there where you have one person that doesn't want to play for money.
Yes, because we've had that.
Yeah. So the rest of you play for money. When they win, they don't get paid.
Oh, and I like that.
I'll tell you how quickly that's going to change, especially if they're having a great night and they've won 6 hands and they haven't gotten paid for it.
And that, you know what? And it's really funny because in groups that I've taught and talked to, I said, even on my worst day, let's say I play an afternoon of Mahjong, 3 hours, right? I don't think I've ever lost more than $5. There if I've lost every single game or, conceivably you you can lose more than that. But and of course, you don't want anybody to go to the poorhouse over it. But I'm like, I say, girls, you spend that on a cup of Starbucks for pizza.
I was just going to say that. You $5 for that.
You pay nothing to play this game. And it just, I don't know. I think it makes you a better player. It makes you a more defensive player. People are like, oh, I can't learn defense. Yes, you can. Like when you're first starting to play, it's like drinking from a fire hose, right? You're left, center, right, center, back, above, blind. No, you can't blind here, but over here, you do the hokey pokey and you turn yourself around. There's so much coming at you that, you can't learn defense right off the get-go, for sure. No. But you start playing for money, you will learn defense. You will start paying attention. Like, oh, I can't figure out what Jan's playing. I'm just trying to figure out my own hand. And you're like, yes, you can. You can figure that out. Dogs are talking to me.
Mine is outside my door and he's going.
Is that a quilt I see behind you?
It's one of my wall hangings that I made.
Oh my gosh. So, that's another thing we share in common, Jan.
You quilt?
I'm a quilter. Yes, that's my other. I want to say I cannot believe, well, I can believe we're already running out of time, but I want to say to people, a lot of people, I started, you and Johnny as role models today. I decided that settle down. I decided that I wanted to start a Facebook group in Austin. And And so I started this because as you know, we go back and forth to Colorado. And so I'm not able to commit to a regular group. And so I was trying to find different people to play with. And I thought there's got to be people in Austin, Texas playing Mahjong. I started this Facebook group in March of this year, and we are almost at 1,000 people.
Oh.
And that's just in less than 6-7 months. We'll hit 1,000 people this month for sure. And it's been insane. And some of them are not in the Austin area. I didn't make that a requirement. So we do have some people that pipe in from other people. But then we set up the app Team Reach. I don't know if you're familiar with that, but it's a way of saying I'm having a game and I can have this many people. And people RSVP, and it's a really great tool. So we have over 300 people in our Team Reach group that are setting up games all over Austin, from restaurants to even in their home. Say, hey, I can host 3 tables at my house, and it's just warmed my heart. But we're also seeing a whole influx, and you see it on your board too. How can I learn to play?
Yes.
Tell me, let's talk a little bit about that before we wrap this up. Of how can people learn to play Mahjong? Because it is a difficult game. I mean, I always say the rule book, which is called Mahjong Made Easy, and it's about 38, 40 pages long.
Yes, 38.
Is an oxymoron. I do not think they make learning Mahjong. I tell people you cannot read that book and learn how to play Mahjong. It's a rule book, but it's not a way to learn how to play Mahjong.
It is not a teaching book.
Mm-mm.
The first thing I recommend to people, especially in the group, when they are asking to join, there will usually be something like, I want to learn how to play, or I don't know how to play yet, but I'm looking for da-da-da-da-da. And I'll send a message, and I will also put in that message Michelle Frizzell's YouTube video on how to play. She's excellent. She's very, very good at what she does. And I tell people, first of all, buy a set. It doesn't have to be an expensive one. We all know there's sets out there for $50 if you want to get a set. So if you're going to use Michelle, you have the set to use while you're watching the video, because hands-on, we know, is always the best way to learn. Otherwise, check with somebody that you know plays to find out if they'll teach you or who they know who might be a teacher. You want to make sure you get the right person. Too many people out there are not teaching by the correct rules, which is sad. So I recommend, first of all, Michelle's YouTube video.
And I would go, if they don't talk about that you need the National Mahjong League rule book, Mahjong Made Easy. I mean, yes, a lot of the rules are printed on the back of your card in very, very tiny print, but it's there, or I shouldn't say a lot, but the main function of how to play the game is there on the back of the card. But you need that rule book. And if somebody is not talking about that rule book or referencing that or telling I tell this all the time. A lot of people, even as I read your message, I'm going to say your message board, when I read the Facebook group, Mahjong, that's it. And they're like, oh, there's bad teachers out there and there's people that aren't teaching correctly. And then there's this whole debate about, should teachers be certified? Should you charge? Should it be for free? I don't care. If people want to pay for it, they can pay for it. I love to teach people. I teach people for free. If you want to charge people and people want to pay you, go for it. Whatever works, right? Now, I also say, just because somebody's charging you doesn't mean
that's right,
they're any better. I mean, it doesn't mean anything necessarily. So, but I also think when people say, I see comments, they weren't taught correctly. It speaks to our individual responsibility. If you are smart enough to learn how to play Mahjong, then the onus should be back on you. Get the rule book yourself and check yourself, right? Just because we're like, well, that's not how I learned to play. Okay, well, you learned wrong. This is the correction. This is what you got to do differently. And, if you're smart enough to learn, then go back and you read that rule book. You can go, oh, I never knew that. Or I thought like I said, I made an assumption about my Mahjong in error or whatever that wasn't correct, right? So you can learn what the correct rule is.
Absolutely. So like you, I have never charged a penny for teaching. I've taught regular Mahjong as well as Siamese.
I love Siamese.
Oh, me too.
Love Siamese. Thank you, Gladys Grad. Yes, thank you.
We're very good friends.
Oh.
Yes, I'm very fortunate that she's been in my life. But I had a cousin who wanted to learn in Long Island. And make a long story short, she found a teacher. And the very first night, she called me and she said, I don't know what I'm doing. I said, okay, how did it go? She said, well, she had us putting tiles inside that thing that she was calling a rat. And we didn't know what to do. We had no clue what any of the tiles were. This was on a Wednesday night. And I said, Karen, fly down this week and I'll teach you how to play. And I did.
Wow.
She went back the following Wednesday and the teacher was, telling people, oh no, you don't want that tile. You want this, da, 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 da. And when she came to my cousin, she said, no, that's wrong. This is what I'm playing. I know what I'm doing. So she was in the wrong place.
Yep.
And she started talking to the girls at her table, saying what was right and what
mutiny on the Mahjong table. Mutiny on the Mahjong table.
So you have to have the right teacher. It's so important. She was even teaching tapping.
Oh.
And it's like, what?
Don't get me started on that.
No. So now I happen to play at least once a week with her online just to keep her going. Because even though she retired, she went back to work a little bit. So she hasn't got the group.
See, I just think this is such an amazing community. And when people say they're, tournament players are mean or that's not nice, right? You know what? It's like any community. Yes, there's going to be, I always think that about when people complain on the Facebook group. It's like, you're talking about 140,000 people. Of course, there's going to be some womp people, and there's going to be some bitchy people, and there's a hell of a lot of nice people, lovely, intelligent, wonderful men and women that have, for me personally, I have met in the last 2 years, just 2 years, I have met some of the most incredible people that I never would have met otherwise. Our lives would not have intersected.
Right.
And I'm just so grateful for that.
When I moved down here from Vermont, I knew nobody. And I put up a post moving to Florida, blah, blah, blah. And that's how I met people. Now, of course, you know, Mother of All Dragons is the tournament.
Yes.
Myself and Jean Graham have put together. And I have met some of the dearest people, men and women, and they know that being discourteous is not allowed in our tournaments. It's like, everybody is there to play Mahjong. If you happen to get high scores, good for you.
Right.
But don't be nasty, because a lot of people, it could be their first time playing, and you don't want to push them away. So and I'm sorry, I interrupted. Go ahead. No, that's okay. Go ahead.
Yeah. I mean, I think even, there's etiquette involved in there's etiquette in golf. I go back to golf again. There's etiquette there. You don't look at somebody and go, you're dead. There's a way to say things. There's a way to present things. I will, if I'm confused, when I disagree with somebody about a ruling, I'll just say, hey, let's stop and check it in the book, and I'll even present it. I'm a rule geek. I just want to understand. I want to make sure that I've got the right understanding of this, right? Or show me where that is, right? It's all about presentation versus,
Absolutely.
And then there's a whole debate about the old guard and the new guard, right? Like I've been playing for 45 years and I'd never heard of that rule. Well, that doesn't necessarily mean you're right. It does not necessarily mean you're right. And
it means you're not keeping up.
Because just it changes. It changes. And then it's been fun to also see, kind of this, I'm calling it younger girls that are coming on board. They're calling it, this is what bunco in the 90s was to my people, to my people. But so much more education. I mean, I'm going to say educational, brain stimulating than bunco. I mean, bunco is you sit there and drink and gossip and throw dice, right? As you might know, I gave up drinking about 6 years ago. I quit drinking alcohol. And one of the things I love about Mahjong is it's really not, it does not lend itself to being a drinking community. I mean, there are plenty of people that do drink, and I have no judgment. If you want to have wine while you play Mahjong, good on you. I can't imagine trying to play this game and drinking wine while I do it. I just, no, that will not work for me at all.
I'm like you. I might have a drink once every 6 months, maybe.
Yeah.
I drink water when I'm playing.
Yeah. I mean, and when you're playing fast, you don't have time to sip and eat. And, you have to eat between the games or after it's all over or something. You can't. Yeah. And I wanted one other point I wanted to make that, again, I'm going to use my darn golf analogy. I know that people are scared of tournaments. A lot of people are scared to play in tournaments. Mm-hmm. I love a tournament challenge. I'm not a great player. I'm not ever in the top scores, but I think it presents for me just a different challenge, right? Can I keep up? Am I playing the speed that I'm playing? I learn so much when I play, as well as, once again, it's an opportunity to meet a whole bunch of cool people,
right?
My
first tournament, I lived in Vermont, and I saw Gladys Grad was doing one in Atlantic City. I had never done a tournament before other than one in the temple, which was, it was good, but it wasn't like a regular tournament because you played with the people you knew. And so I called her, and she said, "Are you a fast player?" I said, "I think I am." And she said, "Well, you know what? You could probably do it." So I signed up. The very first game, the very first tile, I threw and then I picked. And the woman next to me said, "You're dead." I was like, well, because I was playing 14 in Vermont. So I sat on my hand the whole time thinking, oh, what a fool I am. I want you to know I won that session. I won the Friday night session, and I came in fourth overall. I had no clue.
Wow.
I wanted to leave, and these two ladies that took me under their wing said, "Well, let me see your score." And I showed them. They said, "Oh, you don't want to go yet because they give away prizes." I had no clue what a high score would have been. I had 640 points.
Are you kidding me?
My first turn.
Dang, girlfriend.
And after that, it was a no-brainer. I still have the checks because it was a no-brainer after that point.
That's awesome.
So, and I've won quite a few tournaments.
And, I haven't. I'm hoping that I'll win some tournaments, but I love the challenge of it. And a lot of times I tell people, they're like, when they say, "Well, I'm not good enough to play in a tournament." You don't have to be good. 3 out of every 4 people lose a Mahjong game, right? I love when you kind of realize that you don't have to show the other people your tiles. If sometimes I've been in tournaments and the tiles speak to me. I know exactly what I'm doing, and it's bada boom, bada bing. And other times I've had hands where I'm towards the end and I'm still going, well, I'm in a panic. It's not working out. But what I do is I will, nobody, you don't have to show anybody what was in your hand. Just the game's over, you dump the tile.
A little advice that I give to people who've never played tournaments. Number one, I say to them, don't ever tell anybody at the tournament it's your first tournament. And I know that because I've had one person in particularly that really tried to get me by telling me that I had my tiles from my wall had to be pushed all the way to the left. I had them on the right where they belong. And she'd asked me if it was my first tournament, and it happened to have been my first tournament at that place, but not my first tournament. And after we were done, I nailed her. I said, "You should never do that to another player. You tried to intimidate me. you notice it didn't work. I didn't put my tiles down there. I said, this is not my first tournament, just the first time I've been here. So don't tell anybody that it's your first
That is great advice. That's great advice.
And the second thing I tell them, you might not know any of the people, but take it as like you got a phone call from your friend saying, I play with this group, really nice ladies, but I have to be out and we're looking for a sub. Can you fill in for me? So you're going to somebody's home you've never been to, playing with people you never played with, but you're at ease because you know your friend has played with them and they're nice people. Mm-hmm. That's what you have to have the mindset when you go into a tournament, that you might not know them, but that's okay. You know, just pretend you're not in a tournament.
Very nice. And what I tell people is, you know, it's again like golf. My husband's a great golfer, and he'll play with people that are not great golfers, mm-hmm. as long as they don't slow him down, right? So sometimes that means they pick up the ball and move on, right? They don't hit every one of their 10 shots on that particular hole. And I think the same thing is true in a Mahjong tournament. As long as you're not slowing people down, mm-hmm. they don't really care if you're very good or not. I mean, that's the main thing. As long as you know, you're keeping the pace, you're not causing disruption in the game, and, you know, pushing out your wall the way, you know, you're doing the right things. If you're not slowing them down with the Charleston or really slowing them down while you rearrange your tiles when it's your turn and whatnot, all you have to do is that you got to know your discards. That's what I say. And I teach that. I tell that to my newbies, right? Like, you know, you shouldn't be pulling a tile and thinking about it, right? Like,
absolutely.
You shouldn't be going, now, how does this fit into my hand, and rearrange it at that point. Rack it and get rid of something else. Because until you get down to that end of the game where you know what you're going for,
right?
What you're drawing is almost irrelevant, other than the fact you don't want to miss a joker exchange, right?
Exactly. I'm a person, and the girls I play with, they're so sweet. I open up my tiles, and I've already got my 3 tiles out for the Charleston. I know by looking at my tiles exactly what I'm going to be playing. And when we play 5, often I will hear the 5th person say, I can't believe how many times you rearranged your hand and you won. You have to have in your mind the mathematical part of it too. And I'm very lucky that I have that. I can see patterns right off the bat. So I'm fortunate. But you should always have a tile ready to discard when you pick that you know doesn't fit into your hand.
Yep. And I tell people too, for me, and I don't know where I heard this, but it helped me when I was at the beginning when I'm trying to figure out my Charleston, right? And I would be thinking, well, will this work? Will this work? And I thought, when I started looking at it, somebody said, well, instead of thinking about what's going to work, you know what's not going to work, right? And for me, it's like, okay, it's very clear I'm doing an evens hand. All right. So for sure, none of these odd numbers are going to help me. Right. And that's not always the case. But for me, I found like it's easier for me to know what I don't need than to know what I do need. Right. As I'm trying to figure out what section I'm going. I mean, I know what section I'm going for. And I know the neighborhood. I just don't know the house I'm buying. I like to say, you know.
And that's a great way to explain to somebody what tiles to get rid of. Not what you need, what you don't need.
Yes.
Put them off to the side and you'll know, right away.
I always say these people don't belong in the neighborhood. These people need to go to somebody else's neighborhood. They don't belong in mine.
There you go.
I have so enjoyed this, and I'd love to have you back on because I have so many questions that are in my mind. I'd love to have a conversation more about tournament play and how tournament rules can differ from the standard rules. As you know, I posed a question recently on the message board that had got a lot of feedback. It's so interesting. So
anytime, I'm here for you. You know that.
Well, yeah, Jan is like my rescue 911. I have literally been in a tournament and I'll text her at the break going, okay, this just happened. Is this right? What should I have done? And she's like, hang on just a second. And then she'll look it up or she'll tell me, she goes, okay, this is what, or I'll call her at the end of the day. Let's debrief. You know? You are so wise and knowledgeable and just and the way you are open to sharing your expertise is just such a gift to those of us that have come to this community later in life. You open the door and you make it such a welcoming place. You are the example that I like to follow, that I want to emulate into showing people and bringing people to this community. It's such an amazing group of people. And
It's sweet, but you're right. It's the people that make the game what it is, and they make your best friends.
Yes, that's absolutely true. I will, if people have questions, I will put in show notes things that maybe there might be listeners out there that would love to pose some questions to you. And if you can share, I don't know if you want to share right now, or if there's an email address or a place where people can find you, you can let me know that. I'll put it in the show notes. It's because I know you're such a. I don't want to publicize it if you're not ready for it, but they can find you for sure on Mahjong. That's it. That should be number one place to go to.
And there is more than one group, Mahjong, that's it.
Oh, is that
somebody accidentally started it way back. I think there's like maybe a couple hundred people in there, and she has closed down the group. But look for the one that's got 141,000 people.
140. Y'all hear that? 141,000.
Yep.
I mean, it's almost, it's amazing to me. Like, I mean, how fast it was just over 100,000 not that long ago. I mean, it's just.
And it's boom, boom, boom. And I want to say, not only are we a great group to ask questions and find out the right answers, we also have giveaways. We have a ton of discount codes for different companies. So if you want to buy a set, you could get 10, 15, 20% off by using our discount code. You want to buy a mat, the same thing, right? And we do giveaways as well, where some of these companies will give away a set or whatever. And all you have to do is answer maybe a question like, what is your favorite tile? So
do you have a favorite tile? And do you have a favorite tile?
I do. It's the one BAM.
Oh, that's a good one.
I do. And then it's followed by the dragons. The jokers.
A lot of people say jokers for obvious reasons, but for me, my favorite tile is an 8 crack, and there is a long story for why it's it's such a weird tile, right? But I have a good story. But it basically, I lost an 8 crack at a tournament. I had my set, and I did not get home with my 8 crack. But then the story, someday I'll tell the whole story, how the community embrace, like the tournament director, people were looking for it. The tournament director found somebody who makes jewelry that just happened to have I had a blank, and I know I could put stickers on it, but I just bought the set, I really didn't want to do that just yet. She found somebody that was making jewelry and happened to have an 8 crack. And then I got connected with Christine Whitman, Christine Whitman Designs. Yes. She's like, oh, we were in Colorado at the time, and she was living about an hour away. And she's like, come to my house, play Mahjong with me on Thursday, and bring me your blank tile, and I'll carve you a new one. She made it spot on perfect. Then after all that, I ended at the bar, because it was at a bar where the tournament had been held. 2 months later, we'd gone and searched the floor. We'd asked about it. No. 2 months later, they called me. They found my 8 crack.
Oh my gosh.
So I ended up with 3 8 cracks. It was additionally, to what I already have. So to me, an 8 crack kind of just represents how this community, we'll find you an 8 crack that matches. We've got this.
We're there for everybody.
Amen,
That's
sister.
the thing. We really are. And by the way, Christine Whitman, I went to her home when I was in Denver last month.
Did you?
I did. She was working on a set for a friend of mine. So I was kind of helping her with some colors and whatnot. But I saw how she makes the crazy from the composite. I was, whoa. Really,
it was such a gift. I went to her house, same thing. And you're just like, this is magic. What she does, such artistry, and the wooden racks that they create are just.
I have a set of them.
Me too.
Yep, they were my birthday present.
Yeah, I love her racks. They're absolutely. And I'm going to do an interview. I don't know. Do you know Rod Lemke?
Yes, in fact, I met him on a Crack Your Bags cruise, my very first one a few years back.
Well, so Rod and I play in Colorado Springs in the same group. And, Rod is a Mahjong tile collector, and he has this room that I've gotten to go into. We call it the Maj Mahal. I mean, it's just, and he has over 300 sets of tiles. 300. So I'm going to have him on, and we're going to talk about his collection. And one of his is just this absolutely, well, he has quite a few, but he has a couple of Christine Whitman design sets too that are just fine.
I was giving away with what she does. It's mind-boggling how
it really is. It really is. But I want to thank you for your time, and most of all, I want to thank you for your friendship and how inclusive you've been. And it just means the world to me that I can call you my friend.
You certainly can, and I'll call you my friend. And will I see you in Atlanta?
My sister and I have not confirmed that. We had a little bit of a conflict we're trying to sort out, but I sure hope so.
I hope so too. I need to give you a
give me also, I'll put that in the show notes in Atlanta, what y'all are doing. It's another Valentine's Day retreat, is that right? Or is it?
It is, and it's with Mahjong Mavens.
Okay.
And if you go to their website, mahjongmavens.com, it'll be there, or call Debbie.
Got it. Good. We'll put all of that in the show notes too for people. So if you're looking for something fun to do on Valentine's Day weekend around there, we had so much fun. I met some gals there that ended up coming to the Horseshoe Bay tournament. They from New Mexico. So we got to be friends with them, and it's just awesome. It's such a beautiful community.
The connections that you cannot make anything like them anywhere else, period.
Absolutely. All right, my friend, my Jewish nun.
I love you.
I love you too. You have a great day.
Here, you do as well. And call me anytime. My phone's always open for you.
Thank you, my love. Thank you very much.
Welcome.
And thank you for listening to this episode of Pammy Out Loud. If you have any questions for me, or that you'd like for me to relay to Jan, and you don't want to get on the Facebook group, you can write to me at pammyoutloud@gmail.com. I hope y'all have a great week, and I look forward to visiting again with you and other connections and community members that we have out there. Y'all have a great day. Bye-bye now.
Bye.